Hey, I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions, here with my uncut review of Zorro, Season 1, Episode 1 on Amazon Prime. The synopsis on IMDb reads, actually, no, this is something I wrote because they had just very little on IMDb. Diego de la Vega, a young man in the Spanish army, returns home to California after news of his father's death. As he tries to get to the bottom of his murder, he begins to see the corruption of the local government and their mistreatment of the people. He also learns that the mysterious local hero known as Zorro is actually a legacy of men who have gone by that name, chosen by the mysterious spirits of a local native tribe. Even more surprising, it seems Diego has been chosen to be the next Zorro, and a woman of the tribe who feels entitled to the role is determined to reclaim the title for herself. Okay, so what is this animal? Of course, this character's been around since 1919, I think is what the Wikipedia entry I looked at said. I have very little knowledge of the source material. I saw various movies and shows about Zorro growing up, just a few episodes here and there. I'm not really a fan, but Zorro is a prototype of superheroes, especially superheroes like Batman, and I'm a big superhero fan. So this got my attention, and surprising me were some light supernatural elements in the premiere that I find inject the Zorro lore, at least as from what I know, with some added geek appeal, just having a little dash of the supernatural. It's like, oh, okay, well, let's see where they go with this. Amazon offers an English dub, but I watched it in Spanish with subtitles. That's really my preferred way of watching it. I think I just love that it just makes sense. A bunch of Spanish-speaking people, I want to hear them speak Spanish and just give me the translation, and hopefully they'll feel free when appropriate to have characters speaking other languages. I've really come to like that kind of multilingual approach to filmmaking and TV shows. The premiere has about 3 action/fight sequences that do have some flair and style, as you might expect from previous iterations of the character, but it's not like action and adventure throughout. It gives what I think is some worthwhile time to establishing relationships and character motives. Diego has been away from home for many years, so he's coming back and having to get kind of reconnected to people that were a part of his earlier life. And I really love this stuff, and establishing that not all those relationships are still in good shape. Some of them are warm and wonderful for him to come back to, and some of them they didn't leave off on good terms. And so I just like him navigating that kind of as a fish out of water. I did want a little more time and explanation given to justify Diego's skills. As I mentioned earlier, he was in the Spanish military. We see a brief scene involving that at the beginning, but then they jump 6 months and we don't really know how that time ended or the extent of what his skills are that he might have acquired from being in the military. Without a little bit more explanation, the stylish combat at times felt a little bit too easy to me, a little too fun, maybe a little too stress-free. Now, I think fun is okay, and that is a part of how this character has been portrayed in the past, with the military or guys that he's up against being kind of buffoons. They're not treated as buffoons here, but they still have little moments of fun, and that's fine. But I want to have some sense of his limits, and for those limits to be treated consistently, not for him to just kind of be able to do whatever the situation calls for. And I think that they could do that by just explaining how skilled was he, what training did he get, was it just in the Spanish army, was there any other training that he got, things like that would really help me out. But I was always interested in every scene, whether it was action or just a lot of character development or maneuvering different plot things going on. When out of costume, Diego is still navigating his investigation of his father's death, trying to hide his personal motives with a false front. And so the tension of his sort of secret identity, I mean, not sort of, it's an actual secret identity, is already in play. Even before he takes up the mantle of Zorro in the first episode, he's realizing I should kind of hide my motives and just kind of play along with the party line that the government is giving about my dad's death. And so for him to be hiding his true motives already is employing some of that secret identity tension that I enjoy in superhero stories. So I look forward to more of that. The overall tone takes the premise seriously enough for me to want to know what happens to the characters. But I'm going to need some more time and more character investment to be truly emotionally invested in their stories and their stakes and to really feel what I think they might want me to feel. The traditional playfulness of Zorro's screen incarnations is still present, I think, but not to the same degree maybe as the Antonio Banderas movies. But there's, rather it's in these brief glances or these brief beats in otherwise serious action sequences. And that keeps things from being so silly for me that I stop caring or being concerned about the situation. So I think it's a pretty good balance for me. As far as the cast goes, a lot of pretty new faces. I recognize the actor playing Zorro just because he had a small part in a Netflix show that went one season that I tried the premiere of last year. But otherwise, I really don't know any of these faces, I don't think. Solid casting and performances, I think, across the board, though. I would have liked to have seen more time and emotional space and expression given to Diego's grief, but we may still get some of that. That's something that he could be maybe reflecting on throughout the entire season. We'll see. The standout so far, though, is, I'm going to butcher his name, but Paco Tos as Bernardo, the personal servant of Diego's father, and now Diego's mute ally and confidant. And I believe the other iterations of Zorro have had kind of like a confidant that was also mute. I don't know if he had the same name, but from my memory, I think he was played for comedy a lot of the time. And, the lack of speech, having this character, I think it could end up going that direction. You otherwise need a really great actor and give the actor some performance space to really show some subtleties when all they have to work with is their facial and hand expressions. And this actor, I felt, really did a great job of feeling genuine to me. They weren't really playing him for comedy in this episode that I remember. He seems to have this real fatherly warmth and affection for Diego, which is great, especially in the absence of Diego's actual father. And so I see that as being a real potential selling point for me to stick with this show, at least for a few more episodes, to see how it goes. I definitely look forward to more scenes between Diego and Bernardo. Okay, as far as stunts and visuals, there was one green screen background that felt a bit lacking, but the show really leans mostly on the practical, so I'm not really too concerned about that. And there was one grand establishing shot of an 1830s Los Angeles swooping in like the camera was on a crane or maybe like a drone or something, and it almost made me think that I was like, could they have built all? I don't think they built all this. Maybe something doesn't ring as quite true, but dang, it was on the edge, and I really appreciated the effort and quality and polish given to that shot. The sets, the locations all look solid, and there's some conservative but stylish use of slow motion and variable speeds in the camera during action sequences that I appreciate. One small gripe of mine is Lolita's makeup. Lolita is sort of the love interest for Diego that he knew when he was younger, coming back, reconnecting with her, and trying to kind of reignite that romance a bit. Her makeup to me looks too modern somehow, almost kind of like CW style. I would have preferred something more natural and a bit earthy to the way they did her makeup. It feels like they're kind of overselling her as a love interest based on her appearance. She clearly has a personality that I think will come out, and we're already seeing signs of. I think she's going to be an interesting character that's going to be certainly more than just a beauty that he's trying to chase after. But I feel like I want them to sell me on why he's attracted to her, apart from just, her appearance at a glance. So, I'd like to see more of that. We'll see where that goes in future episodes. As far as themes, is there anything of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance going on in the themes of this thing that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversation? I don't think there's any strongly dominating theme in the first episode, but several pieces, I think, are put in place that they could use to explore various themes this season. Revenge would be an obvious and potentially major theme, as Diego is trying to solve the murder of his father and who is really responsible for it. When it comes to Zorro and the reason for him existing, there's a question of justice versus law, that and the fact that the two are not the same. And there's a great statement at the end that when the law does not serve justice, then justice should not serve the law. And that's kind of like the statement of Zorro at the end for his purpose, what he's all about, And so I think there could be some interesting things that come from that. There's maybe themes of mistreatment and prejudice toward natives, maybe some spiritual relativism, or at least a pro-spirituality. We'll see kind of how much they dip into the spiritual beliefs and practices of the natives and what kind of role that plays in the story. And then I think there's probably going to be some stuff about gender equality between men and women. There's this tribal woman that feels entitled to the role of Zorro, and also kind of looks at him and says he's a white man. She says something along those lines, and he doesn't know our traditions. And so that's interesting that they would kind of play, because she's played a bit as an antagonist. And so I'm just wondering where they're going to go with some of that racial stuff, some of that sexual equality and sexual and gender role type stuff. I don't know if it's going to be leaned into or not, but we'll see. Now, I have no idea what your tastes are in TV shows, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Vader. I think this is a new exercising show for you. While you're riding the exercise bike, it's not something that you're going to want to give your like full attention to, at least not yet. But since it's in Spanish and you prefer to watch it in Spanish with subtitles, you're going to have to give your full attention to it. So I think it slots into that exercise bike time of day pretty well at this point, and will definitely be something that'll help pass that time. It's rated rated 13 plus for violence. And those are all of my thoughts for now on Zorro Season 1, Episode 1 on Amazon Prime. Right now, I'd like to take some time to write a tune for pre-made rhyme. The lyrics kind of never change, but the melody gets rearranged. I never know what I'll create to say how much I appreciate Dan Excel, Gabriel Stinson, Olin D, Branham, Winston Crutchfield, Lee Bray, Justin D. Myers, Joel Nelson, and Scruffosaurus. Thank you for supporting me at SBP and CGC. And now to all who hear this tune, thank you as well. Please come back soon. Want to hear your name and song? Then check out our page on Patreon. I'd love to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, click that bell to stay connected to this content. Want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making so much of my content possible. You can get info about the benefits of joining at patreon.com/Spirit Productions. I hope you'll check out our podcast and stay connected to all CGC content at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. For more chat about geek entertainment, answers to your questions, and news from the wider world of Christian geekery, get the Christian Geek Central podcast today on iTunes and other podcast services.